Welcome to Julien Mascarade's podcast talk. Today, we're joined by our special guest, Chase Guttman, an Emmy Award-winning travel and drone photographer whose lens has captured the world in its most daring and unexpected forms. In Chase's action-packed journeys for the perfect photo, he's always finding adventure. Whether that's heli-hiking in the snow-capped mountains of British Columbia, bushwhacking with machetes through the jungles of Belize, rescuing baby puffins, or sipping cocktails garnished with real human toes. Now, let's dive right in. All right, Chase, it's such a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is going to be awesome. I am pumped. I wanted to learn a lot about what you've done and how you did it. What was it that got you started in photography? What started your passion?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I was really lucky growing up to have really a very artistic family. In particular, my dad is a travel journalist and acclaimed photographer. His name is Peter Guttman. He's working on, I think, his 10th book now on travel adventures. And he's 3 times won Lowell Thomas Travel Journalist of the Year Award. He's traveled all over the world, and pretty much I learned photography and my passion for travel at his feet. I like to say that these annual slideshows that he put on in our apartments, this like cramped New York City apartment that I grew up in.
Oh wait, how many square feet? Give me a picture.
God, I know we're working with a real estate guy here. I don't know square feet off the top of my head.
Okay,
I'll tell you it's not LA square feet. I'll tell you it's not LA square feet for sure. Yeah. But yeah, in this cramped New York City apartment, every year we'd have this annual slideshow that my dad would put on.
So cool.
And NPR called it the hottest ticket in New York City. Fine Living Television did a whole segment on it for a Christmas segment. And basically, it was a year of my dad's travels. And he would do this fast-paced narration to these 80-plus strangers that were sitting in our apartment. And we would do it like 5-6 times every Christmas holiday. And I really kind of got into the passion for photography, watching people's reactions to his shots, seeing the oohs and ahs of the crowd, watching people jot down notes and seeing, oh, this is a cool adventure I can do near my house. And so that's really how I got into photography and a passion for photography. And my parents were really fantastic at letting me explore my artistic impulses. Even from like a young age, I had a toy camera in my hand as a baby, and then that upgraded to a point-and-shoot camera, and then eventually I got a DSLR camera. And when I was in high school, I 3 times won Young Travel Photographer of the Year, which is an international competition judged by museum curators.
I saw that. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that. So how did you even enter into that competition or find it in the first place?
I think my dad was like, "Oh, you got a pretty good eye, son." And I was like, looking at my photos. I think really what it was, the defining realization for him was I would end up in the spots that he wanted to be before he was there. And so he was like, what the fuck's going on here?
When you see it enough as a kid, right, that also helps you visualize exactly what you want to do. And I think that that's underrated as all hell. You know what? You can go on YouTube or TV and you can watch what other people do nowadays, and you can learn so much from just even doing that. But you had somebody great that you were able to shadow, and that ultimately gave you this lens that a lot of other people didn't even have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my dad always took his time to kind of analyze photos with me, like what did we do successfully, what didn't we do successfully, and much in the same way, he would spend that time, I would spend the time analyzing his photos when it came onto that big screen I was talking about. So that's really how I got an interest in photography, and then through that award, I was being flown out to London to have my photos being exhibited at the Royal Geographical Society in London, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And so I realized I could make a career out of photography, and then from there I started applying for colleges that were doing interesting things in photography, and most particularly, I was really fascinated by drones. I'm like a tech nerd, I love perspective.
Wait, when did you first have your first experience with the drone?
Yeah, I think my first experiences with the drones was really just online, just seeing the amazing shots that were being gotten. Okay. And then through this process, this college process, I ended up finding this particular school, the Newhouse School at Syracuse University, and they had this whole drone club, this like nerds that were assembling drones. They were
That's so cool.
Building drones that had like tethered power systems, so they had unlimited battery life.
I always wondered about drones. I wanted to understand a little bit more, because a lot of the time I see drones, and a lot of the times like iPhone drones, and I'm like, there's no way that's how you take the best shot possible and everything.
So with drones, do you attach a very expensive camera to that? Or how do you get the types of shots that you want? How do you manage battery life?
Yeah.
Like because I know that all comes into play and a lot of people don't think about that. But all of those things come into play when you're
it's a great question. In the earliest days of drones, I remember the first Phantom by DJI and the GoPro drone, you'd actually have to attach a camera to it. And now most of the ready-to-fly drones have these really nice cameras already built into it. It's much better than even the iPhone cameras that we have today. But there are also, on the super high end, I'm talking stuff for Hollywood productions, you can put like a red camera, a $60,000 camera, on the bottom of a very custom-fit drone. So it runs a gamut. But in terms of like ready-to-fly drones, most of them already have a built-in camera that's pretty good to start.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool to know. Yeah. I had no clue because honestly, a lot of the times I've just seen, you just put an iPhone in and then you're ready.
We were talking about this earlier. My iPhone drops all the time. I know the same for you. I would not risk my iPhone at 400 feet up. So
I get that. Yeah. I'm horrible with my cloud storage, man. Like literally, it's been telling me for forever. You need to download. And I'm like,
I learned that the hard way. I had a pretty catastrophic loss of a lot of photos.
Water damage?
I think I had lost my phone and I couldn't recover.
God.
Or the phone actually got bricked. That's what happened. And I couldn't recover the photos off of it. So I was like, okay, iCloud, let's prioritize that now. So
that stuff can happen to anybody. We carry our lives in our phones nowadays, and
Absolutely.
Our photos are a window through our lives, and that's why I love keeping all of my photos on my phone. So it's like, I don't want to get rid of these, even though I do those stupid screenshots, and I'm like, I don't even want to delete those.
Right, half of them are nonsense, but you're like, I still like them.
Photo management is something that I've found is very important as well. When you're a photographer, in the spur of the moment, you find interesting things to take photos of. How do you manage your photos? How do you choose those specific moments to be able to take inspiration and say, okay, I want to take this photo?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of photo management nowadays, they always say, just leave it on the hard drive. Wait till you get home to review it. I would be lying if I said I don't go through my camera and what they call it chimping, like looking at the little LCD screen and trying to.
So what does that mean?
They call it chimping, which is like when you're like stopping in the field and you're scrolling through and pixel peeping. I definitely do that, and I end up deleting images. But technically, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to wait till later.
Right.
So, but we're all guilty of it as photographers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then in regards to finding inspiration for your shots, I know that can sometimes happen just at the spur of the moment. Do you ever try to pre-plan, or do you just go, because I know it's probably both, right? Yeah. Pre-planning and then also like, okay, now I found something amazing in the place where you were pre-planning, but you didn't even think it was going to be there. Yeah. So like, which one? Spur of the moment, pre-planning? Do you have like a percentage of each?
It's a great question. Sometimes it shakes out to be very uneven. Sometimes it's 50-50. It really depends.
Right.
I always allow room for serendipity to creep in, especially when you're talking about drones. Usually, we'll definitely start from a research angle. Not all the time, but I often start from a research angle. Something cool I saw on Google Maps, a really interesting thing that's near me, and then I go and shoot it. And then what happens is you often develop tunnel vision toward that very specific thing that you wanted to shoot. And so I think it's always really important to use the drone to kind of like 360 turn around, since you're not there with the drone itself to see what it's seeing. And you'll be surprised the amazing stuff you see when you kind of yaw that drone around and like, oh, that's pretty nice over there. Let me go fly over there. And it's amazing. You can do it from the comfort of wherever you are. So you could be sitting there and let's fly way over there.
I feel like there's a certain amount of distance you can go, and that depends on drone to drone. But like, do you feel like you want to be there in person as well, so then you get different, obviously you're there in person, right? Because it's not like you're just at home, and you're like 5,000 miles away.
Not a military drone pilot, to be clear. That's
that's what I was, because it's for the audience, for the layman. Just, he's not sitting on the couch, with a warm fire, he's there.
I wouldn't mind that either.
Right, I haven't done a lot of drone driving in my days, but, that would be a cool way to do it.
Yeah, but to be clear, we're talking about camera drones here, and for my purposes, for the artistic purposes, it is great to be as close as possible. I always try to be, and also for safety purposes as well. You're supposed to maintain line of sight. You got to make sure you're avoiding obstacles.
How do you change out lenses? That's another thing, because I started getting kind of mad into cameras when I started buying for this, for this spiel, this little thing that I do. But yeah, how do you, does it have a multi-lens? How does it switch from wide to not wide? Is there a whole, I bet there's a way to do do it.
Yeah, it runs a gamut, same as what I said with the camera setup. So there's everything from like the optical zooms, that's what most of the drones have these days, where you can actually zoom using the drone that's built in as is. You don't have to do any lens swapping. And then at the higher end, you can actually do some lens swapping again with those big, heavy drones that are carrying big, heavy cameras. Yeah. So it just depends on what kind of equipment you're rocking with.
What is a really cool place that you've been recently that you've just been like, wow, this was awesome?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very privileged. One of my great clients is Photo Workshop Adventures, so I lead travel itineraries around the world, basically teaching photography at locations for people who want to learn the craft while also seeing really cool and amazing things. And so I most recently did something for them in Banff, and then before that in Ireland and Scotland. So that's really what definitely comes to mind. Ireland and Scotland is just fantastic. And in the end of the month, in a couple weeks, I'm going to Norway for them as well. So,
fun.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to Ireland soon.
Oh, yeah?
Too. Yeah.
For
for a wedding. So do you actually do tour? You do the tours in person. It's not just like you create the rubric as well. You also do the tour.
I'm physically there, so I'll fly there. I'll meet the group, and I'll show them different cool spots around Dublin. And we're gonna drive. We drive across to Galway and go to Burin and a bunch of other national parks, Connemara over there, and then down to the Cliffs of Moher. So that's kind of our.
It's like a traveler's dream right here. Like literally anybody who wants to be like a travel junkie, their whole this is what he does. This is literally his life.
I'm very blessed in that regard, and they're a fantastic client. I mean, I get to do cool trips with them around the world. Next year, I'm doing Cuba for them and Japan for them as well. Wow. So there's a lot of cool itineraries. So.
That's nice. So I want to hear some crazy stories because I know you got all the crazy stories. Tracking a jaguar?
Yes.
I want to hear that because I love jaguars. Jaguars are some of the most majestic animals. So just imagining tracking one, that's insane. It's a large cat.
Yeah. So in the jungles of Belize, my dad was actually doing work for this really amazing lodge that had all these different kinds of lodges. One of them you had to kayak to get to, like 20 miles into the jungle. And another one that they were building also is one, I think it might definitely exists at this point. This is like 20 years ago now. It is one where you literally have a room looking into like a jaguar. So the jaguar just like lives in the center, and all these rooms are kind of looking into the jaguar enclosure, which is really interesting as well. So yeah, it's a really interesting place in Belize, and so we were going out into the jungle bushwhacking with a machete to find them, and it's
my God, it's really, like an Indiana Jones moment.
Yeah, it was a really incredible experience. Yeah, well, if you're into Indiana Jones moment, I made me think of this. When I was in Guatemala, I guess 3 years ago or 2 years ago now, we were there during these crazy protests that were going on against the government, and we were going to Tikal, which is considered one of the great Mayan temples of the world, and they were blocking it. The protesters were blocking it.
What was the protest about?
It was government corruption. I'm sure it was a very legitimate protest.
Because I know they have like a ton of hyperinflation out there, and I know that's a huge issue. Is that you go up your behind with the dollar it's like about worth the same amount. Toilet paper.
Well, I'm sure it was certainly a justified protest, but they were trying to cut off access to these tourist sites.
Oh wow!
And I was working for the Guatemalan tourism company at the country's tourism industry at the time, and so we were with a government guide bushwhacking through the jungle around the protesters so we could avoid them. Wow, and we had like a van with an open sliding door awaiting us, and we ran into them, closed the door, and rushed off to Tikal. And this is like one of the great tourist attractions of Guatemala, and we had it totally to ourselves because no one else was able to get around the blockades that they were instilling.
That must have been really special.
It was a wild experience, It was a scary one too, also, because the protesters, they were not without their weapons.
I mean, I bet you've had a lot of crazy experiences. So, puffins. I want to know about the puffins.
So this is a really amazing tradition you're talking about. So it's this island called Hemi, which is on the, I believe it's on the western side of Iceland. And every year, almost as like a Halloween kind of shtick, they have these little kids that are running around this community, this island, collecting baby puffins. So basically these baby puffins who are just newly hatched are attracted to the town's lights.
Do they have them as pets too? Is that like a thing?
No. So the point of it is A, to rescue them, and B, for scientific research.
Got it.
So basically the puffins have just hatched, and they're attracted to the lights of the town, and so they end up in the town, and many times they end up run over or eaten by animals, dogs, cats, etc., etc. And so the kids kind of band together with their flashlights running around after dark, looking under cars, looking behind garbage cans for these little baby puffballs that are like running around. And so I got to do this as a kid, and we collected, I think, like 3 or 4 puffins in this little cardboard box. I remember sleeping next to it and hearing it make all this noise in the cardboard box. And then the next day you bring it to a weigh station, which is like this scientific station where they're assessing the puffin's health, and then you throw it back into the wild so they can reunite with their family. Part of it is saving the puffin's life because from their eventual demise from human-made things.
Sea turtles, right?
Yeah.
When they're going to the ocean, there's a lot of them that get killed in the process to going because there's a bunch of predators. They know that the eggs are hatching, so it's a very similar situation.
Well, in this case, we're not interfering with the predators. We're interfering with humans. We're trying to keep humans from hurting them.
Humans.
Because humans. So basically, the cars will run them over, or the cats and dogs. So there's a lot of different things at play. That's why the kids band together to save them. I should also add that while we had these 3 or 4 puffins in our little cardboard box, it was around midnight. We were by this church with this beautiful stone fence. We saw the northern lights, so it was a phenomenal experience.
That's one thing I've never been able to do, and I really want to see the northern lights. I feel like it's one of the most beautiful things because it's you also see the sky, right, as well, meaning like the space, stars, etc., and you can see the northern lights at the same time, so it's very majestic. Right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's a once in a lifetime kind of experience. I just had that in Banff. I went with my guests actually on that photo workshop adventure trip. So we were just outside of the town, and we got these phenomenal northern lights, pink, green hues dancing through the skies, right over this glacial lake and multiple mountain peaks. It was really nice.
Oh man, I mean, I feel like that's one of the most romantic places ever. Hey guys, you need to take your significant other to wherever you can find the northern lights. I wanted to ask you about heli-hiking.
Sure.
Because I picture that in my head. I never looked it up. I have no clue what it is.
Okay.
But I'm assuming there's a helicopter and you're hiking.
Yeah, you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head. So essentially in British Columbia in particular, but they do this in multiple places around the world. I've done it also in New Zealand. In British Columbia, they have all these amazing glaciers with incredible hikes. And because of the shifting nature of the glaciers, you can't access them by foot. So the only way to hike around them is through helicopters. So what happens? You have helicopters.
Would you go down and up at the?
So a helicopter will pick you up from a lodge, and it will bring you to a specific point, and you'll go on a 5-6 mile hike, and then it'll pick you up on the other end and bring you back to the lodge.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really
Did you
cool
go with a group of people? Is it like a thing?
Yeah. So I was the youngest person I think that ever went heli-hiking in this part of the world in British Columbia. I think I was 4 or something at the time, or 5. There's pictures of me kind of crying with my mom covering me as they're trying to hold us down so no one gets beheaded by the rotary blades. It's a fantastic experience, and as mentioned, I've done it more recently in New Zealand as an adult. It's a really once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Do you remember it? Because I remember sometimes there's only select things I remember from the ages of 3, 4, before. Do you remember the actual experience?
Yeah, well, aided by the millions of photos my dad has.
There you go. That makes life nice.
I'm able to jog memories a lot more easily than most, so yeah.
That's good. That's good. My family not the best at taking photos all the time. So
there's goods and bads.
There is because then you won't get embarrassed by all the.
Well, worse than that. So my dad. Worse than that. When I was a newborn, my dad actually had originally a goal of photographing me every single day of my life.
Really?
And I think he eventually realized that many years of therapy I would have needed this transpired. So that actually became a different kinds of tradition where I photographed every year on my birthday.
Oh, cool! I like that. So then you can have the same place. I've seen those videos where there's time lapse, right? So is it type of thing where he's going to do a time lapse?
Exactly. So basically, I'm in the same little small chair that's meant for a toddler. Honestly, I'm still doing it even at 28. But you're in this small chair that's meant for a toddler, and I'm holding an item of significance for that year. So whatever is important to me for that year, and then there's all these fun balloons all around me. So he's done that every year of my life.
I like that. That's super cool. That's super cool. I wanted to learn a little bit more about when you moved to LA. So how did you even come to LA?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my mom, when I was just finishing up college, actually accepted a job out here for Netflix. And she was the head of education at Netflix, doing trainings around the world. Really cool job. She loved it. But my parents moved out here. And these are long-time New Yorkers. My mom was born in Brooklyn. My dad grew up in Queens. These are long-time New Yorkers.
Very thick New York accent.
Yeah, exactly. Clearly. They kind of came here kicking and screaming originally, but they fell in love with it. They really, especially my dad, of all people I was surprised by, he loved chilling in the hot tub, making friends. It's a nicer life out here. And I was telling you that there's always been kind of this two big city rivalry. I used to hate LA.
Oh, I know. That's the thing. I have so much family from over there. I've got some family that lives in Manhattan as well. I've got some family that lives all over there, and if you're a New Yorker, like straight city, you know, they don't want to leave. They
Sure.
No matter where it is,
For sure.
it would take a lot to convince somebody
Acts
to go.
of God.
Yes, crazy acts
Yes,
of God.
exactly. Yeah.
Like COVID, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but my parents ended up loving it, and much in the same way, I came and visited, and I was like, oh, you know, it's kind of nice.
Right.
And
The
so,
lifestyle's good.
yeah, like my dad was always doing different adventures, road trips out into the desert, to national parks, to the coast. There's like so many amazing different things to do, and from those trips, I was like, oh, LA is pretty amazing, and so. I've grown tired of New York over the years. Like in about last year, I was like, okay, I think it might be time. And then this past March, I actually just moved here for.
Wow.
And yeah, I've been still finding a permanent housing situation, but I've been loving it so far.
I want to ask you about
Sure.
the tracked eels.
Okay.
What happened there?
So I think it was my dad who discovered this really interesting character who lives off the grid in upstate New York. Actually, only 2.5 hours from New York
That's
City.
off the grid? For
Yeah,
you? I would
yeah.
think off the grid is like
No.
somewhere in Antarctica.
Well, the reason I say off the grid is this is a man who like lives in the woods. He lives off the land.
Oh, cool.
He has filled up his car, and he's an older man. He's filled up his car maybe 5 times in his whole life, and he pretty much lives right on the Delaware River. And every year he builds what's called a weir, like a fish trap from scratch. And it has to get rebuilt because it's ruined by winter. But every year he builds it from scratch, and then during 1 or 2 nights, during a very particular day, I think it's in September, he catches hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of eels just in a 2-day
That's
span.
so crazy.
And he smokes them out of his shack in the woods. And really interesting guy. I mean, they've now done a lot of stories on him, but we found him before National Geographic or Gourmet Magazine did too.
Before all the generic people found this guy.
But no, he's famous for these smoked delicacies, and they're really delicious fish that he smoked.
That must be. Did he build his own cabin out there too? I'm assuming.
Probably, I don't know the story of that, but I know he does build his fish trap every year from scratch, and he's like a grizzled old man with like facial hair, and he can like summon a bald eagle like that.
Summon a bald eagle. There we go.
I know. No, he's really a character. Yeah, keeps a little pistol in his pocket.
Oh, well, you got to. I mean, when you're in the wilderness,
For sure.
you got to protect yourself. Like,
Sure.
what happens if there's 5 assassin ninjas? Come on. I'm kidding. Bears. More like bear or something like that.
He always says, "Watch out for bears" on the way out.
Yeah, especially the food too. Like, so what does he do with his food on a day to day? Because even if he's inside, like, I mean, I'm assuming he keeps it in the cabin and everything. But like, because I know there's an issue with bears in the wild trying to get their food.
I know he's retired from the eel game, but what he used to do is he would have these massive little like kiddie ponds. You used to have like a kid play in, but it would just be thousands of eels in them, and so he would have them in these little ponds, and then he would bring them into the smokehouse to smoke them one at a time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was really interesting, and he also has a pet emu, which is running around in the backyard, which is also adds to the lore of this unique character. But I also have to mention that he's actually on the cover of my dad's recent book, American Character, with him holding an eel on this trap in the middle of the Delaware River. So.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And I love eel too. I think it's an incredible delicacy. It's one of the best things. And it's not too chewy. When it's cooked correctly,
For sure.
eel is impeccable.
I agree.
Yeah.
Although my mom gave my dad a lot of crap for a long time because we got a whole eel from the eel trapper that stayed in the back of our freezer for like 5-10 years. I was like, when are you gonna cook this? When are you gonna eat this?
It's a piece of art.
Yeah,
You're just
exactly,
keeping it there for the
exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god. Hey, everybody's guilty of that with the freezer, right?
Yes,
I mean, come on.
for
Like
sure.
we always just there's always something that's gonna be stuck back there that you're never gonna see unless you dedicate one time every 6 months to go through your freezer.
Yeah. Well, she found it a few times.
Dude,
She's like, when is this getting out of
that's so
here?
crazy. So she'd go back in and there'd be another eel. So how often did you guys see this guy, and how did you meet him in the first place? I want to hear that.
Yeah. So you actually find him. There's a few. If you go off, I think it's 17 heading up to upstate New York. If you go off 17, there's a few little signs. Some of them even handwritten that says eel, and just with an arrow.
So he sells the eels too.
Yeah. So just literally a sign, handwritten sign that says eel with an arrow, and you just go down this like wooded gravel road. And that's how you find this guy's shack.
Oh, I love it.
No.
Cross the Saharan dunes. Like, how did you cross the Saharan dunes?
Yeah.
What led to that? Were you doing a photography shoot somewhere and you decided? And did you do it all in one night? What led to it?
So we trekked into this area. We didn't go across the entire desert, which is a behemoth of a journey, as you might imagine. Yeah. So in Morocco, they have these beautiful desert oases that you can visit, and you hitch a ride on a camel into these beautiful, just amazing areas where they cook actual camel food.
Were you riding on?
Oh yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I've done it before. It's a good time.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
No,
You gotta be careful with this spit.
Doesn't run as well as the Lexus, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
But yeah, no, it's they cook great food in the middle of the desert, and you have beautiful stars lighting up the sky, and it's pretty phenomenal experience.
That's one thing we don't get in LA though. That's the
stars?
one thing. Yeah, the stars.
Yeah.
You know, we don't get a lot of that here. It's the one thing that I miss, you know, whenever I, you know, like obviously I've lived here my whole life, but at the same time I really appreciate being around some beautiful stars and seeing some incredible places.
Yeah, as a photographer, I've been studying kind of the dark sky map around LA, and there's a few spots that you can go that aren't too far, like 30 minutes, even just over the mountains, and you clear a lot of the light pollution. So.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Like whereabouts? Like out here, Santa Monica Mountains?
So recently they had the big meteor shower. I think maybe it's Perseus, the big meteor shower, and so I wanted to go see it. And so I went up to my friend who was near Carpinteria, and we ended up going to Lake Casitas, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And that area, if you look on like a dark sky map, is kind of insulated from because of the mountain ranges, from all the different light pollution, either from Santa Barbara or from LA. And so we saw an amazing meteor shower over there. So.
See, that's the one thing you have to drive 2-3 hours for.
Yes.
Getting some beautiful stars. I mean, so back to the Sahara. Tell me a little bit about. Did you guys do a bunch of shoots out there? What was the purpose of being out there?
Yeah. So we were photographing just all around Morocco. I believe we were working for the tourism board of Morocco at the time, and yeah, so it brought us all throughout the country. There's also these incredible like mud villages, and I think it's called Ben Hadou. There's all these really.
Wait, so what's a mud village? Tell me.
Yeah, it's a village that's made entirely of dried mud.
Oh, like clay.
So they basically they sculpt buildings out of clay, and
so cool.
and it's really on top of this hillside. So it's kind of like as far as the eye can see, these beautiful mud structures.
And so they're built into the hillside or on top?
On top of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds so interesting. Yeah. So people have been living that way, and this is a culture that's lived that way for most of their for their entire life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Have you ever written a book? I want to hear about that. Have you ever written a book and put maybe all of your photos in and given a description as to what happened within those?
Yeah. So when I was in college, I authored one of the first ever books on drone photography, and so I wrote it when I was about I think 19. And it came out of this, as I mentioned, I was applying to different colleges, and I found this group of drone nerds, and it kind of came out of that experience with the Skyworks project, which was these drone nerds, and so from that I had a lot of hands-on experience with drones. I was offered this book contract, and it was really one of the first books at the time on drone photography at all. And I was a bit of a media whore or darling, depending on what phrase you want to use.
You got to do it.
Depending on what phrase you want to use. And so I got it everywhere from Travel and Leisure, Lonely Planet, Daily Mail, A Telegraph, New York Daily News. I had quotes from all of them. So.
I love that. I mean, you have to promote whenever you have something like that. It's very important to promote as much as possible and get your work out there, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to see it unless it's promoted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that kind of jump-started a lot of my career, especially around drones in particular, teaching about drones and obviously using them.
Were you very into drones prior to that, or was the time you said at college, right?
Yeah.
So that was the time that really influenced your drone phase.
Yeah, so I entered college really just as ready-to-fly drones came into existence. Like drones have always existed, as home toys or things people tinkered with, but as a professional tool for creativity, it really only just started as I entered college. And so that's why when I was looking at schools, it became top of mind, and also why I was at the right place at the right time.
Did they have a program over there?
Yeah. So it wasn't quite a program. It ended up becoming a program, but at the time it was just, again, these group of drone nerds. And they were doing like really serious stuff, like assignments for New York Times, like photo shoots for the New York Times, or building, as I mentioned, this tethered drone with infinite power. So there's a lot of cool stuff that they did.
Oh, that's so cool. I like that concept. I mean, and dealing with the tether must add a lot of complexity as well
for sure.
For shots and everything.
Sure. Yeah.
So I wanted to learn a little bit more about the National Geographic Award that you won as a child. It was 15 years old, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so going back to what I was telling you, is my dad was like, oh, these photos are legit, and also seeing me end up in places that he was trying to go to. He was like, okay, he has an eye. This kid has an eye. And kind of seeing that, he kind of pushed me to be like, hey, you should look at some photo contests. And so National Geographic was doing a photo contest for kids. I was, at the time, a big National Geographic Kids subscriber. And so I applied to it, and I ended up winning a whole trip to Costa Rica. And
that's so
yeah,
cool.
that was the first time I went to Costa Rica, go ziplining through the cloud forest. I did all that because of this award.
So tell me a little bit about how you started to run next to an ostrich. Obviously you didn't run, you were probably in some type of vehicle.
Yeah.
So were you taking photos of ostriches?
So what happened was I was actually riding on an ostrich.
Oh, you were riding on it. Oh my God, because I read aside, in my research, I read that you were aside an ostrich. I didn't realize it was on an ostrich.
No,
let me re-ask the question.
Okay, no.
So you rode an ostrich. Tell me about that.
So in South Africa, there's all sorts of amazing adventures to be had. One of them, of course, is the classical one, which is shark cage diving with great whites, which I also did. But the thing that I was really excited about is riding on top of an ostrich, as you said. And it's actually a tradition in this part of South Africa where they do ostrich racing, where people are like jockeys that are on the ostriches and they're kind of mushing them, trying to get them to go as fast as possible. And they actually do like wagers on it. It's like a real
so it's like horse racing.
Culture. Yeah, but on an ostrich, which is not usually designed or domesticated for that.
And they're fast too. They can go like 60 miles an hour, right?
They are very fast. When I did it, they had someone who was kind of like making sure I wasn't falling off any time. And after I had overextended my welcome or my stay on the ostrich, they were like, okay, time to come off.
I feel like you have to have a very strong relationship with the ostrich.
Yeah, well, they're the ones with a strong relationship. But I didn't catch their name. But
No, I get that. I mean, you know what? It's one of those things where it's like it's an animal. It's not like you're on an ATV. Okay, with the ATV, you can. There's a lot of predictability.
And even with horses, a lot of things can go wrong. So.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy videos, especially when, like, somebody's just petting the horse, boom.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Face got knocked out.
Well, we had a runaway horse experience once around Christmas where, the blinders for horses are really important because without it, they think they're being chased by whatever they're pulling.
Oh, really?
And so they'll start, like, running and galloping full speed as if they're trying to get away from...
I didn't know that.
They're trying to get away from something that's chasing after them. So the blinder came off while we were going down a hill. And so it was starting to sprint full speed down a hill while we were in a sleigh through this wooded area. We could have easily smacked into any number of the trees and been decapitated or any number of different injuries, but thankfully this cowboy, actually jumped on top of the horse and threw the blinders on.
Wait, so you were with a group?
Yeah, so I was just a passenger.
This is just random dude comes over like,
not a random dude, it was his horse. And so
it was his horse.
He was the one who was looking after it, but he was, it was just a nice casual sleigh ride through the wilderness, nice snow, look at the pretty Christmas trees.
Course.
And then next thing you know, the blinders comes off and it gets into a gallop and it's going down a hill no less, so the momentum's very serious, and we're like a pendulum because we're something behind it that it's pulling. So we're like a pendulum going every which way, and thankfully the cowboy jumps on top of the horse and throws the blinders on enough to calm it down. So
that's pretty crazy. I mean, like I couldn't even imagine dealing with that.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild experience. Yeah, I
love, personally. I'm a big car guy. I love driving cars. Love going fast, whatever. Not as much anymore. You get out of that phase, but it's predictable.
Right.
That's the one thing. That's one of the fun things that you can count on it doing XYZ.
For sure.
But I mean, obviously, it must give you such a rush to be in that situation where you're like, oh, this is so relaxing. To all of a sudden, whoa, what the hell am I gonna do?
Yeah, it definitely changed the adrenaline levels very quickly. So
breakfast with the U.S. president. How did you pull that off?
Yeah. So this was also, thanks to my dad's genius. We were working down in Georgia, or he was working down in Georgia more specifically, and we were actually at the town where Jimmy Carter came from, Plains, Georgia, where he was a peanut farmer before he became president, and he still until he passed quite recently actually, he was still preaching every Easter Sunday at this church and giving his sermons, and so we came on an Easter Sunday to this church, and I'm a Jewish boy. I'm a little Jewish boy. I did bar mitzvah and everything, and they were asking questions about Jesus and stuff like that in the church. And I remember raising my hand and I was talking about what the symbolism was of a candle. And Jimmy picks on me, the president picks on me of all people. And I was like, what does this candle represent? I go, the light of Jesus Christ or something like that. He goes, exactly that. So I was hitting all the beats.
I mean, that's the best answer that any little Jewish boy could give, because honestly, most of them just be, well, who's that guy?
There you go. But yeah, so I was really privileged. I got to sit next to him on Easter Sunday at the church where he grew up, and where he still gave sermons up until he died. And beforehand, we got to have breakfast with him and the former First Lady, Rosalind Carter. And my mom, who was working at Court TV at the time, now True TV, she was asking questions about the Iranian hostage situations and stuff like that. Wow. So really interesting. It was on a styrofoam plate. It was runny eggs, a classic church breakfast, styrofoam plate, runny eggs. But the company was pretty unforgettable. So.
That must have been very interesting. And in that conversation, did you guys feel like there was some, you got a lot of information in regards to how he reacted to some of those questions?
Yeah.
For example, you were saying that...
The Iranian hostage situation.
Iranian hostage.
I mean, he's a super down-to-earth guy. I think he recognizes a lot of things that could have gone better in his presidency, and things that he's also very proud of as well. But I, again, was super blessed to have that experience, breakfast, sitting next to him in the church, being complimented for my knowledge of Christianity in church. And then afterwards, he was also kind enough to give me a signed copy of his Nobel Prize
speech.
That's
so cool.
And I got to meet with Secret Service and got a little pin too, which for I think it was 7 or 8, an 8-year-old, that's one of the coolest things.
No, that's
the
coolest thing. Everybody would want that. Everybody wants to be a president one day, right, when you're a kid. So that's the ultimate Valhalla of getting into, that's so cool. I mean, I wanted to ask you also about Mount Rushmore, speaking about presidents, right? That's a restricted area. You cannot get on the top of Mount Rushmore without...
This was another amazing, miraculous thing that my dad pulled off access-wise. I believe it was in the pre-9/11 era, but regardless, there was still tons of little security cameras and sensors, and so there's this hike that's right on the right side of Mount Rushmore that kind of brings you up to the top there, and then, as I said, all these different cameras and stuff like that are often triggered, they said, by sheep and bighorn sheep and whatever else grazes up there. And like Nicolas Cage, they let us go all the way to the back of Mount Rushmore, and I ended up sitting on the top of George Washington's wig and looking down on Thomas Jefferson's powdered nose and all that stuff. And it was just there's a picture that I'll send you for it as well, but it was just a really phenomenal experience, and certainly facilitated by the fact that I've always been interested in presidents. That's why my dad
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how did you get to the back? Is there a tunnel that they've dug and
so it was just a hike straight up, honestly. There was some stairs involved, a little bit of rock scrambling, there was a little bit of everything, but it was a hike straight up, and it was really a crazy view that not many get to see.
Wow, that's really cool. I wanted to know a little bit more about how they keep it, actually, the grounds in regards to the tops of the heads, because it's made out of, is it marble or granite?
Yeah, I think it's granite.
Granite.
I know that they don't allow much access up there. That was really, as I said, a miracle we were able to get up there. I think it's usually involved for restoration purposes why people are allowed up there. So we were very lucky.
So, being named a legendary guy by Old Spice.
Right.
Fuck yeah, this guy's literally the Dos Equis guy. How did that happen?
Yeah,
How did that come into play?
So Old Spice reached out to me when I was in college, actually after I had published this book, the Handbook of Drone Photography. And they were interested in having people who are doing really involved work and very sweaty work, I guess, is what to promote their deodorants and stuff like that. So I was always an Old Spice user, and so I was a perfect fit for that. And I basically did a media campaign. I was studying abroad in France at the time.
That's so cool.
Whereabouts? In Strasbourg, right on the German border. I used to bike in for lunches in Germany and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool. Wait, do you speak any German?
Oh no, God no.
I'm the same way. I speak some French, of course, but other than that, I'm kind of lost.
I wish my language skills were a lot better than they are, but they flew me in to New York City, where I grew up and where I was living from, where I was studying abroad in France, to do a whole media interview. And so I was part of this media campaign with Terry Crews and I think Stephen Ogg, who did all the voices for GTA and stuff like that as well. So it was a really cool campaign.
So the First Lady of New York held you when you were a baby. Tell me how that happened.
Yeah, so kind of the story around how I got my name and really my first few moments on Earth is quite interesting. My dad had just authored one of the first hardcover books for photoers. In fact, it was a hardcover series called the Imagine series. And he was going on the Today Show with Katie Couric. And my mom at the time was 9 months pregnant, super showing, obviously. And in the green room before the taping, they went backstage, and Katie goes, "Oh my God, are you guys excited? Were you guys nervous?" And they said, "The only thing they're nervous about is we don't have a name yet." And she goes, "Well, what kind of name are you looking for?" And they're like, "Well, kind of a name that kind of describes our life, something that exudes travel." And she came up with 3 names off the top of her head, and one of them was Chase. And my parents looked at each other and go, "Oh, Chase." And literally the next day, my mom was producing a live television show for the Food Network when her water broke. And she ended up obviously having a successful pregnancy, but on the other side of it, this nurse was trying to teach her, I guess, how to take care of me or something like that. She was like, quiet, my husband's going to be on TV.
What was she doing? What was she doing when her water broke?
Yeah. So she was in the green room. Oh no, sorry, in the green room, in the control room rather. And so she's basically producing. So she was a television producer.
Oh my God!
So she was like, camera 1, camera 3, that kind of thing.
Of course.
Yeah.
And wait. Did she go by herself? How did she water broke? Did your
So she finished the television show. So she continued producing as she had contractions through the television show.
No
got
way.
in the yellow taxi cab and went to the hospital. And
that shows you some true grit and determination right there. Exactly. I don't know if any guy could relate or gal. That's a toughie. Going through an entire shoot. How much was left of the shoot? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a question maybe related to mom, right?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, she finished the production, the television show, and then she got into a yellow cab to the taxi. And then as a nurse came in to teach her like how to take care of me, she was like, quiet, my husband's going to be on television. And so they watched their segment of the Today Show. And then to your point, Donna Hanover, who at the time was the first lady of New York City, the ex-wife of Rudy Giuliani, she had a really close relationship to my mom throughout the pregnancy, was giving her all sorts of different maternity clothes through all her different trimesters, and basically she was the first person outside the family to hold me as a baby. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. Is your family born and raised all in New York, or like how many generations have you guys been in?
Yeah. So my dad was actually born in New Mexico. Interestingly enough, in the hospital where they did the supposed alien autopsies in Roswell.
So that's a story right
That's
there.
where my dad was born, and when we visited it somewhat recently, there was it's a now abandoned site. It was on the Walker Air Force Base, but. When he was there was a ice cream truck going by that was playing Happy Birthday for him, which was a really wild coincidence when we visited.
Cute.
But and then my mom was born in Brooklyn and grew up on Long Island, and my dad grew up in Queens. So very New York through and through.
Right. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten or drank?
Yeah, that award certainly has to go to something called the Sourdough Cocktail. It's a drink that features a severed human toe that is preserved in salt and put in a glass of Yukon Jack. And it is served in this bar in this like old gold rush town. It's really on the edge of the world. It's in Yukon, Canada. It's right next to Alaska. It's next to what they actually call.
So how did you find this?
Yeah, so in Yukon, this is like a famous tradition in Dawson City, which is the gold rush town this is happening in. And the entire town is riddled with permafrost. The ice is so deep there that the houses are literally starting to sway on their axis. So it's really interesting town. But this one bar in the middle of downtown from like the hours of 9 p.m. to 2 in the morning serves this special drink. And they have a toe master that administers the drink. And he goes, you could drink it fast, you could drink it slow, but your lips, they must touch the toe. And he gives you a certificate for doing it. And it's just like gnarly severed toe. It's not a nice sight to see, but I have this certificate that I got from it. And years later, when I was on one of my cross-country road trips, not in the car that you have, but on one of my cross-country road trips, I heard a morning show. They're like, there's this bar in Dawson City, Yukon. I was like, okay, I know where this is going. And these morning show hosts were telling the story. Apparently an American, on his last day, he lived there all summer. On his last day there, he walked in, swallowed the toe whole into his stomach, and threw down $10,000, which was the fine at the time, for accidentally or on purpose swallowing the toe.
Are you serious?
And apparently, since then, they've now upped the fine to $50,000. As people keep donating toes in their will, when they die, it goes to this bar.
Okay, so these are real human toes.
These are real human toes.
Because that was my first question. Because I'm listening to you talk about drink with a toe in it.
Yeah, so
and I'm like, where are they getting the fucking toes from?
So
excuse my French.
That's a great question. So the tradition actually started because during one of the gold rushes, this guy lost his toe to frostbite, and so he had to get it severed.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, what am I going to do with this toe? He wanted to keep it, so he created this tradition called the sourdough cocktail.
That's still incredible. I mean, like we donate body parts, for people
to
that
save
need
other
them.
people's lives.
But sometimes you gotta donate it to get a drink, right?
Yeah,
like
to a bar. Yes, exactly.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about your current attributes. Like what are you currently working on?
Yeah. So I just wrapped up a shoot in the Hamptons, working for a Yacht Hampton client. I just did a shoot for a couple grand hotels, one of them in Turks and Caicos, another one in the Florida Keys, another one coming up in the Virgin Islands. And as I said, I've been leading these photo trips, so I just did one in Ireland and Scotland earlier this year, Banff most recently, and then coming up I'm going to Norway for that as well. So a bunch of different shoots.
You gotta have a lot of airline miles.
I do. I need to take better advantage of them, but I do. Yeah.
That's really nice. So working with Lexus, working with Intel, working with all these incredible companies, Adobe, Netflix in general, how did you create and foster these relationships over time?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've been doing this in some form since high school. So I've been pretty laser focused on this craft and this business, and so word of mouth has been very kind to me, and
That's
trying
great.
to help build the business and foster relationships over time. People starting at Intel might then leave Intel and go to another company, and then I have that same connection there. So I've been very lucky in that regard, and hopefully the opportunities keep flowing.
Tell me about the shoots. So tell me about the Intel shoot, for example. I know there's so
Yeah.
many, because you've done 1,000,001. This guy's literally doing maybe 15, 20 shoots every other week. But tell me about the Intel one. I want to hear how it went down.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I authored one of the first ever books on drone photography,
Yes.
and so I became a bit of an expert on drones, and so I was working with Intel at first doing writing jobs for them. So I did a lot of reporting on different things happening in the drone space, around technology, and around their chips as well. And from there, they actually flew to me at Syracuse while I was a student at the time and did a whole interview with me and how I was using Intel products through drones. To
Did
kind
they
of
use
further
that
my
as
career.
promotional material?
Yeah, absolutely. It still exists on their YouTube. You can pull it for the.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. We'll pull the photo up.
Yeah.
It'll be there.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So, and as well, I remember that you talked about CES, that you went and you toured the Pepsi, or was it Coca-Cola?
Pepsi,
CEO and Samsung as well.
Yeah.
So how did you build that relationship, and ultimately also, what did you get from doing that? What was your favorite moment from touring them around CES?
Yeah, so from my work in the drone space, I had their technology connections, and this company called Shelly Palmer is famous for doing tours of CES. So CES is the biggest consumer electronics show in the world. Vegas, as you know, is famous for these convention centers. They're just massive. There's multiple massive rooms. What Shelly Palmer does is they basically tour CEOs or other, SVPs or whatever high-ranking people in companies around the space, so they can see what the highlights are. And so that was what my job was. And so I was helping tour around the Pepsi CEO as well as the Samsung CEO, and kind of highlighting all the different interesting things that were going on in CES that year.
How did you build that over time? How did you kind of go through your path and find your version and way to storytell?
Yeah, I think it's all about keeping the person on the hook, right? Keeping that person on the line. And I don't know, I think I've been very lucky to lead a very privileged life full of a lot of different adventures, and that's just lent itself some great stories, and I may have told them a few too many times too, and so that helps me refine them over time as well. So yeah, no, it's definitely about keeping the person's interest, but I've definitely had a few chances to practice.
Does that help on dates? You don't have to say, you know what?
For sure. You don't have to do anything in the mirror, it's already been done.
Oh yeah, there you go, there you go. So, that's a wrap. Wanted to say thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
I really
thank you for having
appreciate
me.
it. Of course, and we're going to put all of the information on there for you to see more about Chase's info, his website. All of that's going to be on there, so please check him out. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.